Okay, let's call the meeting to order. It's 9:03, and we'll do roll call. I am here. Gary is absent. Joe, Barb, Ellie, Susan is not here. Jeff is not here. Brenda. All right. We will move to oral communications for any items not on the agenda. If you are, go ahead, Rita.
Hi, I want to just thank you guys for the wonderful horse fair. That was pretty fun and informative, and we had lots of kids, and it was a beautiful day. I know you didn't choose and do whatever for the weather to happen, but that was really fun. So thank you for having that once again, and hopefully the town will be able to support it more. Um, well, it looks like it was highly supported because there were lots of people there having fun. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Rita, for the station that you put on with hobby horses. It was, I think, oversubscribed, which is a good
And
indication.
paying for that whole station. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Rita.
Yeah, it was really wonderful, and to Taylor too. Thank you to Taylor. Other oral communications. Don't see any hands up. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Musical chairs here. Okay. We have the copy of the minutes from our last meeting. I did get an adjustment that we will make on Carolyn Vertonghen wanted a clarification for commentary, so we can do that. I can get that to you, Joe. Came in yesterday. Anything else on the minutes that needs to be adjusted?
Nope.
No. So pending that that correction from Carolyn that we'll get in here. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll approve the motion. I mean, I'll approve the minutes as submitted with the adjustments you made.
No, you got to make the motion.
Oh. Well, I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted with the adjustments that we recorded.
Okay. Is there a second?
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay. Then we're gonna push this to the next meeting because we'll push it to the next meeting because I think we need to have more people to actually approve them.
Well, Brenda can second.
Oh, you can second, but I think if we only have 4 people who can vote, if you have to abstain, I don't know. What's it? Hey, Mary. We have 4 of our 5 people can vote on this. We need 3.
3 of our 5.
Yeah, we only have 3 who can vote. So on the meeting minutes from last. Yes. But we only have 3 who are eligible to vote on this, which is not 8. I don't think we can. We're gonna table this, move it to the next one. Okay, no problem. Okay, the second item on the agenda is review of trail maintenance. So we have Scott and Robert here. We've got the memo in the packets. All fairly basic stuff. I did think it would be useful for us to just have a chat, which I think is why you guys are here, about the mowing. We've gotten lots of feedback to ask us to curtail the width of the mowing, and we've gotten so to kind of bring everyone up to speed. Woodside Fire recommends 3 feet on either side of the trail to clear to reduce ticks, poison oak, and there's some deer grass or something they want to cut back. And some folks on the ranch. I don't know if we have anybody from the ranch who's joining. I can please raise your hand if you are. Who are concerned about eliminating the wildflowers, cutting the wildflowers at this time. And so There's been some discussion about whether or not we should reduce the 3 feet to something closer to 1 foot. Woodside Fire has indicated, 3 feet is a suggestion, so there's no requirement that we have to do 3 feet. I think there's a couple of things to consider. So we've got some trails, say for example, Old Spanish Trail in the ranch, pretty wide, the old dirt road. Do you need three feet on either side of that to clear? Not sure that really actually helps with, actually reduction of ticks. It probably does help with reduction of poison oak. And then you've got a trail like Toyon, which is, single track, that 3 feet is big. But you do have, stuff encroaching, but you also have the wildflowers there. So, there has been a request from folks in the ranch to reduce, the cutting to 3 feet. I think we should maybe have a discussion here on what our advice would be. I don't know if Robert, if you want to lead that discussion, give your thoughts. Robert, by the way, for those who don't know him, is the new town engineer. He is one of the senders of our trails maintenance memo. So welcome, Robert.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to meet you all. So to contextualize this, Woodside Fire does recommend 3 feet on either side as fire safety. It helps provide a bit of a fire break. And also we receive a lot of commentary through PV Connect requesting us to make sure we cut back various overgrowth and items just for people, even their pets and their dogs, make sure they don't get any foxtails, for instance. Along with poison oak, we hear tick concerns, especially from a lot of our community members who are concerned about getting ticks in their regular walking. So we would recommend looking at this in the next cycle, but because we are up right now on the mowing schedule, which should have started this week, we've gone ahead and postponed it by about a week. We're looking at starting now approximately the 29th. Is that correct, Scott? Yes, so we would look at starting next Thursday, and that'd be starting on Larry Lane Trail. Okay, so that would delay some of the ranch trails, starting with Arroyo and ending with Toyon last. Several days beyond that, so we'd start on the ranch trails approximately May 31st. It's a very short time frame to potentially consider reducing clearances. Because there's a fire concern, we're particularly sensitive to this being something that could affect the larger community. People could have opinions on it throughout Portola Valley. If the committee wants to put this forward as something to consider, I do think it's a serious enough item with fire safety to bring to the entire town and to kind of put forward as more of a long-term consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. And to be clear, folks in the ranch can still put out the flags. They can still save wildflowers. We have ample time to do that. People are notified. It does make sense to me that we should have it as our committees are intended to be those forums for the entire community, but obviously we haven't advertised this as a, let's talk about that. I think I feel like it's reasonable for us to table it to talk about it next year rather than trying to force a change at the sort of 11th hour. How do y'all feel?
I just want to say one thing, and that is, I think we're at the end of the wildflower season.
Close
So,
to it. There's
close,
there's a couple of species that don't actually flower out until June.
okay, well, so in a month, it's going to
Yeah.
be moot.
Correct.
And I happen to have read your bio, Robert, and I know that you're a fire expert. So I'm very interested to hear what you say about trails and maintenance and all and that, because I think you have a really good wealth of knowledge that we should tap into. So,
But I think what I'd like to kind of get to the bottom here is, do we want to try to alter the plans for this year, given that they start on May 29th?
no, I don't think so.
Consensus on that? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Then we will get this on the agenda for, I don't know, Robert, we can work with you whenever's a good time to actually consider it, like whether it's this summer, whether it's in the fall.
Yeah, let's go ahead and I would recommend considering it for the fall, bringing it into next spring season likely.
Okay.
And I would like to on record, just let everyone know what we've already offered and what we have done in the past years. Scott's been incredible at this, is we have delayed Toyon specifically to the end of our clearance.
Yep.
Just to give it extra time. We've delayed it by an additional week. This time, we have had volunteers in the past flag areas of concern, and as long as the mowing crew sees a flag, they will be careful around that area. They'll avoid that entire area if they can. I think one of the considerations this year is that there's only a couple volunteers really to assist with that process. So,
Which we can actually call for more volunteers. There's probably a latent number out there that would be willing to step in. I don't think we've actually actively done that. We do have 2 folks in the ranch, but we can take that up for flagging. Yeah, the key thing on the flagging is we need to get the flags in place just before the mowing happens, because if we do it too far in advance, then people come and they remove the flags
Yeah.
because they think for some reason they shouldn't be there. Okay, that sounds like a reasonable plan to get the conversation started in the fall for planning for next spring for how to do mitigations on mowing. And maybe we can actually have a broader conversation about mitigations along trails. There's probably like lots of, you look at Coulter Trail, for example, there's all sorts of deadfall that probably needs to be removed and that kind of stuff. So, okay. Anything else on mowing? I don't see any hands raised on the Zoom, but I'm going to move over there. Yeah. Will you?
I'm sorry. I don't see Escobar on here. Is that a town, from
Escobar,
up to Goya? Is that a
that is,
town?
that's a Westridge Trail.
Okay. it's
Yeah.
not on the-
So one of the things that's funky about that particular area too is the Quilter Trail is, I'm just scanning for. Yeah, there's no hands up. The Quilter Trail is split, responsibility is split between the town and Westridge. And so there's actually correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, there's a marker kind of like halfway down in the gulch that actually, yeah, with a little pink flag on it, where where the dividing line of responsibility is. So, yeah.
And ours is the south, kind of, well, I don't know if there's a north or south. Yes.
The quilter.
No, ours is at the Dos Lomita,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yes,
That's right, yeah,
but those are switched.
right. It's switched around
Ah,
and they've never corrected
Never
it.
knew that.
Can you come to so folks can hear you on the Zoom?
Westridge trails don't have to qualify with the county safety, the elevation. So you can always remember which is which
Oh,
side.
yeah, because the dangerous
because the
side is the Westridge side.
Dangerous side is the Westridge side. So it's on their insurance. so to speak.
Okay, all right, well, that's good to know. We should probably get those signs switched.
They've been there for,
Yeah, it's recent.
right.
Okay.
Yes. And we brought it up before and they've never changed it.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we'll add that to capital improvements coming up. We probably just swap out the signs, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's a nice, fun little. So that's why Escobar's not on there because
Okay,
it is
okay, okay.
is a Westridge Trail.
Anything else?
Anything else on maintenance?
I have a question. So Scott, you guys, thank you for all the effort you put into making the horse fairgrounds work. We were very appreciative. Yeah, and thank him too. It was really good. And I know you guys did a ton of work, so you're the unseen heroes there. So thank you, because there were hundreds of people and I don't think anybody complained about anything related to the grounds. So great. Thank you. And then the only other thing I was going to mention is that, so you guys are starting now on cutting trails, basically, because I've noticed a lot of the ones on the side of the road are kind of non-existent right now. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, and Golden Hills or Golden Oak, whichever one, it's oak, Golden Oak along the side. Up by Westridge on up, that area, up towards Fawn,
Towards
Golden
Meadowood,
Hills.
Golden Hills.
Hills, and there's a bunch of them that are kind of like that. Yeah. Perfect, thank you so much, just because I want people to understand that they still are trails there, just that there's grass too. Exactly, thank you.
Scott, a quick question. I think on Cherokee, heading down to Cherokee Court, there's a new trail post there with nothing on it. Is there going to be some sort of a? Oh, it's not the town? It's got no sign on it, so I thought, how lovely the town is. Okay.
All right, well, we should have a look at that. Okay, any other maintenance questions? Okay, then let's move just to Shady Trail. We had some questions last time about the work that was done, and since we had those questions, there's some logs in place to prevent people from really horses from stepping kind of on the edge of the trail. I think we've mostly confirmed that the logs were used.
It was funny because they weren't there and the logs weren't there and weren't on my property. And then logs showed up, but I don't know where they went between that time.
Yeah.
I don't know,
So
but
I think yeah, but the logs, I think the logs that are in question were there logs used in the bank and then the fill? No logs were used in the bank. Okay. Okay. Then
it's
something,
fine.
your
No,
logs
I'm
have
happy
been
with it.
removed.
Well,
But
you did also because they did a ditch. You guys did a ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just did. But all those logs that were there, where did they? Okay, it's fine. Well, it's fine.
but I think that
Well,
Yeah.
It's fine because I wanted to do.
Excuse me, is the mic on?
Is it?
it is on now. Yeah.
What?
Oh, Scott doesn't have a mic. Yeah. So we're talking about whether or not the logs that were on Brenda's property were used in the fix to the slide on Shady Trail. We don't believe that they were. And so we don't know exactly what happened to those logs, but that's actually not the sort of
No.
key thing here. I think the thing that we wanted to provide an update on here is that I think that the fix is complete. It's got those logs there that I think alleviate the concerns that people had about horses maybe getting too close to the edge.
I agree. It looks great. Thank you so much for doing that. I noticed it right away and it was like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, so
No,
just-
it looked great,
So
Scott.
for folks who are listening, and Scott just was saying that it was going to be a two-step process. We've now finished both steps and it's good.
This is about Shady Trail.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? I noticed that people have donated here. Is this something to do with the fund that Jeremy Dennis set up when he
No.
was here? So
It's-
is this something new that now
No, it was,
we are,
we could recap it. We can send you the information.
okay, I
It
just
it was,
wondered-
it was in one of the, probably 2 or 3 meetings ago. There's a whole group of people that got together to do the
Okay.
funding, but it's not related to the idea that Jeremy had.
so maybe it's something going forward if the town doesn't come around to doing things with no money, that maybe
We have Jeff,
outreach,
Jeff, who unfortunately can't be here today.
Loki?
'cause- Yeah, because he's prioritizing being at his daughter's graduation. Will you think that's reasonable? But he is working on figuring out some fundraising, how we can work with the town to do more
Wonderful.
of like this. So Rebecca is commenting for those who are on the Zoom that we do have something set up last week. So we'll ask Jeff to provide
Okay.
an update next time when he's here. Okay, I want to keep us moving forward because we do have some folks here to give us kind of an exciting presentation, I think. So we're through Shady Trail update. Okay, on the committee priorities, we will start with capital improvements. We will skip easements because Gary is not here, as well as site developments with trails. Well, Brenda, unless you have an update on that one, and we will hit community engagement. So Joe, capital improvements.
Okay, I sent a request to all members for inputs for capital improvement ideas, and we don't have any additional new ones to add. We do have a list that's a couple years old, has 6 items on it, and the only one that looks, I think we've done before, is Sausal Trail. I think we finished the Sausal Trail drainage. Right, yeah, so there's really just 5 more. At this point, if anybody does anybody else have any capital improvement ideas that they want to add to our list?
How about we do this? When is this due? Is it due end of June?
I don't know.
Fiscal year ends in June,
Yes,
June 30th.
yes,
That's correct.
yes,
So this would be for the 26.
25, 26.
Yeah, so for 25, 26. So let's do this. We will include this in our minutes. We'll ask the community to submit any requests. This committee can submit them to you. We'll give folks a little bit more time.
Okay,
and
so
then we
in
can
addition,
discuss at the
okay.
next meeting.
Okay, so the request that went out, in essence, you want to have another, just
I think so.
similar?
Yeah.
Okay. Do that.
Can I just say, Joe, that, the
It's
one
too
thing
late
that
for
we,
us to have a discussion. Can have someone come and tell us next week? Okay, all right.
All
Well,
right.
that's why we put it on here. Then I think like we have our list. It's a list that we've had for a while. I don't
we
think
just say what you have on it. And I did send you something I noticed at the horse fair, that the Admiral Coulter's tie rack is rotting. And I think we should fix that. Because people play on it, like kids were sitting on it, and I'm like, ooh, the logs. And seeing as you had some logs, maybe there's some logs we could reuse there, because it's made of log.
Here,
Anyway,
can I read your list of? I'll read it off to folks. All right, so top one is reapplying weather and gravel, all weather gravel and widening where appropriate the Sequoia Trail. On the Sausal Trail, we still want to add drainage routes and all weather the entire trail. I still think the bottom of the trail still has some problems. Portola Road Trail, all weather to enhance the safe routes to school. This is particularly necessary, right across from Priory, and then on that little,
up by Westridge.
yeah, up by Westridge. Palmer Trail, we still need to redefine that one. Is that still correct? I actually think we should take the Alpine Road Trail, transition the crosswalk from the trail off of here, because that will be part of the Hawthorne project. So
Cross it. Go ahead.
cross that one. And then all weather the Cervantes Trail, particularly as it goes up hills that we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Those seem reasonable. Should we add Eagle Trail on here? Fixing the Eagle Trail. I mean, we had that previously.
Rebuild in essence.
I think it's moving it away from the creek. Couple spots. Yeah.
Okay, so then when we do have it finalized, this needs to go to who?
Let's send it to Robert.
Robert.
Yeah. And Mary. Send it to Robert and Mary. And we need to do that by this week.
Yeah, so I'll get it out and I mean, I'm not sure we're gonna get any more inputs. We may not get.
I think
any.
this is it. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
this is
then-
it.
no,
Let's
then we don't
not-
have to go out.
Let's not
No.
let perfect be the enemy of
Sounds
good.
good. Okay,
Okay.
Mary and Robert, I'll get you. Clean it up.
All right, okay, we're skipping C2 and C3. Let's go to community engagement. I think this was mostly, thank you, Scott. Yeah, you too. This is mostly just to sort of recognize Barb and Ellie for another amazing horse fair, and Joe and Teresa for helping with parking, and Mary for bringing horses, and several other folks, Rita, who already commented. What's that? The decorating and the decorating. We estimate that we had somewhere around 500 people there. Joe thinks he gave away about
400 tickets.
400
Yeah,
tickets.
so for the drawing, the raffles, I gave everybody a ticket that I could get to. And when I got them home, I counted 400 of them that we had given out. And I assume that we got about 75% of the people, so somewhere around 500, maybe 550 number of people that were there.
It was, yeah, it was really great. It was busy the whole time.
Yeah.
So
And there were no glitches.
no glitches.
The only thing is there were lines everywhere. And when you had to cut it off, like for the carriage, it was kind
Sad
of.
faces. Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, I think it's better to have people
Right,
wanting more.
right.
So
No, it was great.
just a really great event.
Yeah, and I think that was the feedback we got from a lot of people too, which was really nice. And somebody came up to me and said, my kids have never touched a live animal. So, because we had the petting zoo there
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
so.
But what about Jasper Ridge with that gorgeous little chickens sitting in little girls' laps?
Yeah, you could hold a chicken. That was a new one.
It was crazy, but
Yeah.
I also want to just acknowledge that, Ellie filled in a huge gap in our funding because we lost half our funding. So we owe Ellie and Roy Ferrari a
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yep, that was great. Keep doing it. Another one we want to have a conversation probably about funding. Okay, so I think we are through. Go
What
ahead,
my
Mary.
favorite experience?
Yeah.
My favorite experience was that the library came through gangbusters with
Yeah.
a fabulous table of free books for all the
Oh,
kids.
wonderful.
And the librarian who's in a wheelchair came in and said, I want a photograph of myself reading to the pony.
Uh-huh.
And so we got a photograph of him in his wheelchair reading The Black Stallion to my black man.
Amazing. Amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. And I do think we had a really great connection with other folks around the region. So we had the Los Altos Trails folks were there. We had Woodside people there. So just really a great event, not just for our community, but connections to the other community, which is what the trails
It's a really good
are
point.
supposed to do.
That's what we're trying to do. So great.
Okay, we are going to move on to new business. We have Rebecca here who's going to talk about designating the Alpine Scenic Corridor as a priority conservation area. There is a lot of information about this in the packet. There's the website. Oh yeah, the website is on here. So if folks want to pull up that website on the agenda, abag.al.gov/PCA. We have lots of information here about what it will do. And I think what we have in the packet is the actual the resolution that Rebecca will be bringing to the council. And I think the goal here for us today is to hear about this from Rebecca, and then we will do a vote whether we're for a recommendation, support or not. That's our objective here. So with that, yeah, let me.
Were those attached to the minutes, the packet?
The slide,
Get
let's
it.
see here. There's no cable to connect.
I have them at home, but
Oh, well, how do people? Um, uh, oh, yeah, let's, can you, try to share, see what happens? Are you able to share? What if I make a co-host? Okay, you're a co-host now, Rebecca. Rebecca Flynn has started screen sharing. Should be coming here. There we go. Hey, nice,
job.
nice troubleshooting. Okay. All right. Yeah, we can see that on the screen here in the schoolhouse. So, okay. Re- Oh, yep. No problem. Here we go.
Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. I think,
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
hoping offline because I've listened to these things on Zoom and this particular microphone is particularly bad, but I'm hoping that people online can hear me. So anyway, thank you everybody for allowing me to come. This is a project that started with Catherine McGill over in the Conservation Committee. She discovered that there's something called Priority Conservation Area with ABAG, which is the Association of Bay Area Governments, which includes all of the Bay Area, including north of San Francisco and in the East Bay as well. And they allow for the nomination of areas as priority conservation areas. So she, along with the help of my intern, Ben Fair, started the project. And then I joined in to help push it through. And so that's what this presentation is. So what is a priority conservation area? These are areas that are regionally significant areas that are to be protected and improved. It's a project of ABAG, as I said, as well as MTC, which is the Metropolitan Transportation. I forget what the C stands for. And they have created eligibility maps. And so what happens is a local government with land use authority, so in this case, the town of Portola Valley, nominates a particular area as a priority conservation area. And we, Catherine and I, or mainly Catherine at this point, worked through, they provide you with maps online, and she identifies a specific geography using a GIS system to define the area that we want to define as a priority conservation area. And there are 5 different types that are possible. Those include natural land, working land, urban greening, recreation, and climate. The maps have already been identified. Let me say how to phrase this. ABAG has already identified which areas within the whole district qualify for each of these different types. So for example, working land is specifically for areas that are agricultural. So we don't really have any, we don't have any working land, any land that they consider working land within Portola Valley. So we wouldn't be eligible to apply under that characterization. We do have some areas that are natural land, but they've actually already been designated. So Hawthorns has already got its designation as a priority conservation area, for example. We don't really, there's some small parts that are urban greening, but in general, urban greening refers more to cities and suburban areas. So the two areas that did work for us was the recreation and then the climate adaptation. And climate adaptation can only be applied for in conjunction with one of the other areas. So recreation was the one that worked the best for us. And so why nominate a PCA? It's an opportunity to elevate local conservation priorities into the regional planning framework. And then most importantly for us, PCAs are eligible to apply for PCA grants. And that would allow us to get funding for some of the trail work that you're requesting, if there's anything along this area. Or if it's, for example, also for some of the other committees I'm going to be talking to, bike trails, as well as habitat preservation and restoration. Once we are approved, we would become part of a regional conservation framework, and you can go online to their website and you can see all the areas that are already designated as PCAs. And then specifically for Portola Valley, it's a great opportunity to improve the linkage between various open space preserves that are already within Portola Valley and that are adjacent to us. And then, and based on a lot of the current situation in Portola Valley, it does provide another layer of protection for the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor. As we know, with the situation with the mountain lions and stuff, it's really important that we preserve habitats so that they can move across landscapes and be able to have access to other areas as they cross through town. So this is the actual map. It's a long, skinny area, and it extends on both sides of Alpine Road, and it starts with the border of Ladera, and then it goes all the way along to the intersection with Willowbrook. And you can see from the map that it links a large number of open space preserves, and the green ones are the ones that are already preserved, that are already priority conservation areas. You can see Hawthorns is there, and Arrastradero, and Coal Mine Ridge. And it will also include the Frog Pond open space area, the Dorothy Ford Park open space area, and then it'll allow us to get closer to the Windy Hill open space area. It specifically includes the Alpine Trail and Dwight Crowder Memorial Trail. And then, as you all know, there's a ton of trails that come down and meet up with those two trails. And then it also includes 3 playing fields for recreation: Ford Field, Rosati's, and the Corte Madera soccer field.
I think maybe it's also worth pointing out, correct me if I'm wrong, that it includes the road remnant
Yes.
piece that this committee advocated to not develop in order to preserve the Frog Pond. I don't know if y'all remember doing that about 7 or 8 years ago. So I think that's a really nice feature of this.
Right, correct. And then, so once we get formal PCA designation, we'll be able to apply for the grants. These grants have so far invested over 38 million in various PCAs around the whole region. And there's 8 million available right now to apply for this year. Some of the potential projects that we kind of discussed was habitat restoration for the Frog Pond open space, strengthening the habitat and trail linkages between the open spaces along Alpine Road, improving the bike trails, and then also perhaps planning for a future trail linkage from the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor to the Arrastradero Preserve, which would be a really nice addition to the trail map. And then, so next steps, we've already worked with the nomination process and have already submitted the geography, and it's been approved, the mapping. And so now we're at the phase of engaging the local community. Today's our first presentation for trails and paths. Next week we'll be doing conservation committee, and the following week we're working with BPTS. Once we get recommendations from the 3 committees, we're already planning to appear before the town council on June 11th. And hopefully we will get the approval on that date. And then it gets, the paperwork gets sent over to ABAG and the staff. And in the summer, they would then integrate our Alpine Road Scenic Corridor into the entire map. And then they'll be announcing grant applications for money. So that's kind of where we're at, and I'm happy to take some questions.
Can I just ask, so the idea is clearly to improve trails
That's
Right.
one of them, yes.
and then also to beautify either side of the trails like flora or
If you-
what exactly
Well,
will we see different?
there's a list of all the grants that have been granted in the past, and the majority of them are for trail work or bike path work. And currently, there's a lot of funding out there for bike path work. But this organization seems to fund a lot of trail work as well as access to trails. So they've had projects where they've actually helped develop a parking lot for a trailhead, for example, and trailhead improvements. But a lot of it is trails. There's also some habitat restoration, so maybe that would fall under that. But I think if you look at a lot of Alpine Road, especially on the other side, if you will, the side towards
Senate.
Portola Valley, I don't, is that west? East?
West.
West.
Yep.
You're kind of falling into people's properties in a sense, so it's unlikely that would rank highly on a grant application. They're more focused on the recreation aspects of trails.
Yeah, well, that's great. And we're talking about multi-use trails, right? Not just bicycle trails.
Oh, yeah,
Mostly
yeah,
in
no, no.
town, we kind of call them multi-use, just so that
Okay.
people understand that the priority is that every user gets to use it, right?
It's actually more even walking trails than it is bike trails. They're kind of viewed separately instead
they
of bike
are.
pathways. I know a lot of our trails are used by mountain bikers, but a lot, what I've seen for some of the bike pathways, it's more of a formal bike path kind of idea. Some, more in the cities and stuff tend to build,
So we're
actual-
just trying to get designation and then we can talk about what the trails should look like afterwards, right? So I'm just don't want them to pave the whole way.
Yeah.
It's not even about that. You get the designation and it provides a layer of protection, and then it's completely up to the town
Perfect.
to apply for some need that they have.
Excellent.
So
So
it'll
if-
be our opportunity. So for example, like the thing that I would be very excited about is where Ostrankos Road connects to Alpine Road, that segment of Alpine Trail up to the Hawthorns. That's not in good shape. And
Exactly.
getting some way to make that better. And this would be the only funding entity to do that, because we got Hawthorns to fix the part that fronts Hawthorns of Alpine Trail. But that section right there it's the weak link
Yeah.
in Alpine Trail. And so I think this would be super helpful for that.
And I don't know if they would fund even, I think if I remember the map, Alpine Trail is on the west side, and then it somehow gets right over to the
Technically,
east side somehow. I
yeah,
don't know if there's
so
actually a crosswalk there. I don't know. if they would-
Alpine Trail itself, so we'll have a little trail nomenclature here. So if you're starting at Ladera and you're coming up towards Portola Road, Alpine Trail and Dwight Crowder Path are both on the east side. And then once you get to Ford Field, Alpine Trail actually crosses the street and it goes up the west side in front of the wedge, and then sadly ends right at Golden Oak. Dwight Crowder Path continues all the way up to the intersection at Rostradero, and then we somehow cross over back over to the east side and come up Alpine Road with, I think we call it Alpine Trail again, even though there's kind of a discontinuity. There's no proper crossing there, but it sort of starts again across from the Alpine Inn and then ends up at Willowbrook. So I think that, I think this committee would be mostly interested probably in the improvements to Alpine Trail proper, Dwight Crowder seems like it's in pretty good shape.
So can I ask a question? So the whole point of this, to have this designation, is for improvements to the Alpine Road Trail? Or are you saying the monies, if granted, could be used for other trails in Patola Valley?
It would be exclusively for this priority conservation area. Or
Which is
something
along-
that connects right to it, that sort of thing. That's,
But is it mainly for trails, you say, or maybe other things such as habitat and?
habitat restoration. It depends what the town
Oh,
and the town committees would like to apply for.
Okay. Because I just remember many years ago when Susan Gold is still on the committee, but when Lynn Davis was on the committee, there was an application. Now, it may have been a different designation for money for trails, and they said, oh, yes. And then they said they have to be multi-use. So I thought maybe if you were improving trails around town, many are not multi-use. The ranch is not multi-use and it doesn't allow bikes or, so I just thought if that would come up, but along the Alpine Trail, which is actually also, is that supposed to be multi-use eventually? Is that, they're hoping to improve it? Although certain parts of it, I don't know how they'll improve it just before Alpine Club because it's very narrow and you got the creek there, so
Yeah, that's the
anyway.
the part. Maybe, so just to get us all kind of on the same page moving forward, I don't think there's any downside in this. This just gives us opportunity to apply for money to support our mission effectively. There's no restrictions that this place is in terms of trails, which I think is what your question was getting at. Is that fair?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
No, I can't see any downside and I see a ton of positives because we add a second layer of sort of protection. if you
Yeah.
will.
Becca, is there any conflicts with the state's increased housing requirements that we have? Will this conflict with any locations where we might have building opportunities?
It doesn't, but I feel that it adds a little bit of a layer of protection. You know, for like the Ford Park, for example, if it's, we can now say it's a priority conservation area. I mean, they're totally separate in terms of
Mhm.
what they do. And we have a housing element where we have said that we think this particular property or that particular property would be good for housing. We have since changed our mind about that. So given that we're right now negotiating with HCD to allow us to indicate different properties to replace Ford Park, I consider this to be another level of, another reason for why we would want to not build on Ford Park, for example, because, you know, it is an important regional area that needs to be protected. So,
Because it also says in your agenda that these rules do not supersede Patola Valley town regulations.
No. They
You
don't.
have to kind of work in compliance with that.
right. I mean, there's not rules per se from the designation. It's just, you just get added to the map of areas that we as a community and this ABAG consider to be significant and worth conserving and protecting.
I think it's worth doing. It sounds wonderful. You're doing all the hard work to apply with these wonderful agencies and deal with it. So
I have to give credit to Catherine McGill. She did a lot of the legwork.
it sounds wonderful. So I hope for success.
Yeah. So I
Kind
would
of-
just need a motion
Okay.
to.
Teresa, do you want to have a
comment.
public
Yeah.
comment? And also, if folks online want to raise their hands, please feel free.
Rebecca, I just wanted to understand the specific designation that we are referring to. If I understood correctly at the beginning of your presentation, it didn't sound like, it sounded like you were saying we would be applying for like really a development opportunity because of the category. Could you just refresh? for
It's
me?
recreation and climate adaptation. So in the lingo of, let me go back. In the lingo of the PCA world, recreation refers mainly to trails as well as playing fields, but it's mainly trails. When I look at the funding, it's trails.
So that designation would not necessarily open current open space areas for development as playing fields or whatever, is what I'm hearing you say.
Right.
That
no.
would really be up to the town and the committees to make sure that we continue our good stewardship and intended uses of those properties. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's just a designation that allows us to apply for funding. And so the funding just comes from the town. The request for the funding comes from the town. There's no, this doesn't allow for any kind of development, or it doesn't change our land use rules. It doesn't do any of that.
So it doesn't
It's-
open it up to be a dog park, for example.
No, unless
Mhm.
some committee chose to request that, but I don't know that, well, maybe they would fund that, but it would have to be.
How much is involved? You say maybe $8 million we could possibly get, or did
Sorry.
did it say that maybe it might be an amount up to $8 million?
Well, $8 million is what has been funded for the third round for all of the projects throughout the
Oh,
whole
so that's not what we would get.
9. No. We would,
Okay, okay.
most of the grants are in the thousands, maybe
Okay.
10.
So do we know how much it would cost to retrofit it? Or are we getting off the trail here?
Yeah,
To
so-
retrofit Alpine?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
off topic.
I-
Okay, that's
let's
fine.
let's bring us to whether or not we want to support this for the council. So can we get a motion?
You've got to get the public comment,
Oh, is there a hand up?
Dana.
Oh, okay. Okay, you got to come.
There
to
you
the-
go.
Hang on a sec. Hang
I
on a sec.
No idea this was in motion. So I'm just, I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. And I think that just the opening of potential and possibilities here is enormous. And, I love also, Rebecca, that that climate is one of the, is one of the driving forces here. I've been reading a book called Take to the Trees, which is absolutely compelling about what's happening with trees and open space. So I think that the more we can do here, the better. And I'm so delighted and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. We will go next to Mary, who's here in the schoolhouse.
Speaking as the public, I had two questions, clarifying questions about scope. Because one of the things that's interesting about the Alpine Corridor is it's so close to the next county. And if this gives us any leverage in the next county, we would suddenly have Los Trancos and Arrastradero, where we have big link breaks, which has been a big problem for for Alpine Inn, as well as for our accesses along Los Trancos. So including being able to get back in to, it depends on where how wide this gets, because there's also the Alpine, there are at least 3 different places where there's a loop off of the Alpine Corridor trails. One would be around the wedge, behind the wedge. Now we have a designated trail that goes all the way around. One is along Arrastradero into Arrastradero Park, and one is Los Trancos swinging back in through the ranch. And I'm wondering whether there's any way we can sneak in a clause about liaisoning with Santa Clara County.
Well, we're only allowed as the town of Portola Valley submitting this designation we can only submit it for the land that we control. So any area that's outside of our control, we wouldn't be able to include that unless we were to go in with the other county or whatever. You can,
Yeah.
multiple groups can come together and submit a designation. But for this particular one, we had to be very careful to only go along the limits of Portola Valley, the town
Yeah.
of Portola Valley. That's why we stop, closer to Los Trancos and whatnot. So
Yeah, maybe as a follow-up, we could look at whether it'd be possible to also do this for Los Trancos, the portion that we do control. That would be a separate thing from this, and we can take it as a follow-up for whether or not that's possible. I think it's a great idea to see if there's more we could do with this concept is what I kind of took your comment.
you can certainly submit another one next year. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no limit to the amount. I mean, you can see the gaps. There's definitely gaps in Portola Valley and the ranch and what have you.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, Christy.
Yeah, I do want to compliment Rebecca and Catherine for working on this. It's, a surprise to the public, but also something much needed. I'm looking at the list right now there's 185 PCAs in the area, and the nomination is through May 2nd. So I'm hoping you hit that deadline. But we should keep May 2nd in mind for next year if we didn't get it. But I'm noticing there's natural areas, hillside natural areas can be added, and natural lands and creek watersheds. So I think we should look at natural lands and creek watersheds in addition to alpine. So I'm noticing a lot of ridge areas.
Yeah,
and
hey,
a lot-
Christy, do you have any, can you keep your comments specific to
Yes,
this
I am
proposal?
for this, for the trails, and I think it needs to be looked at a wider area, and I'm wondering if Windy Hill is also designated, because
yeah.
that is a huge hiking area. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So just for clarity, I think she's supporting this. For those who can see on the Zoom, Windy Hill is in the lower left. That green portion is Windy Hill Open Space Preserve. The middle one is Hawthorns. Over to the right, you have a Rostradero and Foothills Park as the other ones that are shown on this map. But I think we have clarity on support for this from all the commentators who have joined us today. So can I get a motion to make a recommendation to support this at the town council? Is that sort of what you need?
I move to make a recommendation to
I
support
second.
this.
Ellie
Okay,
Ferrari.
Barb gives the motion, Ellie seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimously supported.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna just stick over here. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Vote the motion.
Okay, we are adjourned at 10:01 a.m.
Next meeting?
Next meeting is Wednesday, June 18th.